All of us have heard the term global warming in the news or through social media or through whatever means. It's a very normal term nowadays, used by a lot of people. But do you really understand what it means? Today I'm going to explain to you the causes and effects of global warming in both the short term and in the long term of humanity's future, and how it will affect us and what global warming is. The three parts that I'll be focusing on today are what global warming is by defining it for you and giving you an explanation of what exactly it entails. Uh, what caused global warming to happen in the first place, and the effects global warming has on the future of humanity. For those of you who don't know already, global warming is a gradual growth in global temperature due to the greenhouse effect caused by an increase in different materials such as carbon dioxide or chlorofluorocarbons or other things being deposited back into the atmosphere by humans from by taking the carbon from the planet through oils and other means. Many people confuse what this means, assuming that it means that the planet is rapidly heating, causing horrific detrimental effects in a very short period of time, or that it's heating so rapidly that it's going to cause humanity to die, or they think that it's not going to affect humans at all and that humans are completely out of the loop as far as who's being affected by this experience. But the truth is that all of these things are false, and that humans are largely the reason why it's happening in the first place. Over the past 100 or so years, we've spent quite a bit of time building machines that have used oil, like this gas can that I have right here, filled with gasoline. This is exactly what we've been doing. We've been taking the oil from the planet and we've been depositing it back in the atmosphere. And I'll get more into that later. But that's what's caused most of the problems. And by doing that, by taking the oil that we have in the planet and putting it back in the atmosphere where it was originally, we are causing a lot of problems for a lot of other plant and animal life, including humans. This is causing the temperature to rise because as sunlight comes into the atmosphere, it's trapped by the greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide specifically, and it causes the temperature to gradually rise. Not as much as you think. It takes thousands of years for things to make a very bad term, but it is slow enough, and although it is slow, it still causes problems even in a few degrees. Coral, for example, can die if the ocean temperature is only a few degrees changed. This brings me to my next topic, the causes of global warming. As I mentioned earlier, global warming is largely because of human efforts over the past 100 years, mainly due to the technological advancement that began in the Industrial Revolution. And these effects are due to the release of carbon from beneath the Earth's surface. Over time, carbon sequestering took place, and what that means is carbon is taken from the atmosphere and it goes into plant life and it's consumed by animal life. And when those animals and plants die, their bodies are then taken and deposited into the earth. And that biomass, that material, is then converted into oil and other things like that. And it's taken from the atmosphere and placed into the soil, and so we no longer have it in the atmosphere to affect what we breathe, respectively. That changes things. That changes the way that we are able to grow. By this happening, we've changed the atmosphere completely through carbon sequestering. By removing the carbon from the atmosphere, we've allowed for an entirely different grouping of species to propagate and to thrive. The plants and animals and bacteria and algae and everything that exists now that's living is solely due to the fact that carbon was removed from the atmosphere so long ago that completely different organisms are allowed to thrive. Humans evolved, and over time, we made these machines, and we took the oil back out of the earth. All this carbon that was taken out of the atmosphere, we're removing it, we're pulling it back up, and we're burning it to fuel our cars, and we're burning it to fuel generators for our houses and things of that nature, and that is replacing this carbon back into the atmosphere. And what that means is that we are basically turning the atmosphere back to the way it was before we were ever around. And although that seems like it's not that big of a problem, the problem is that we're not suitable, that's not a suitable environment for us to function in. And so this massive change in the carbon levels in the atmosphere also affect the temperature of the planet. It affects how much the temperature changes. It affects all of the temperatures that we experience. And although human beings have the ability to experience a variance of temperatures, many animals and plants don't have that same capability. They're not warm-blooded like we are. And there are very few mammals in the scope of things. And so this global warming that we're experiencing, it is slow and it is gradual, but it is affecting the plant and animal life that exists on the planet. What happens is that the temperature rises slowly and slowly, and one species dies, and one species dies from that, and it's a domino effect. And this causes a lot more detriment than people want to admit. This brings me to my last topic, the effects of global warming. The release of carbon back into the atmosphere, like I said, creates this substantially different carbon level, and it makes the atmosphere actually unbreathable for human beings. If we had carbon levels like they did thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, we wouldn't be able to function. We wouldn't have the same food sources. We wouldn't have the same ability to breathe. It would change everything about what we do as a species. Most of the living things that are alive now, like I said earlier, are also not built to live in that environment. They're not built to live in the hotter temperatures. They're not built to live in any of what we're creating by human beings burning the oil that we have. And that's a problem. Many people think that the animals that we have now and the plants that we have now will evolve to be able to handle those problems. But the truth is that the temperatures are rising much faster than anything can evolve. These temperature changes take place over thousands of years, or they're happening over thousands of years, or actually even hundreds of years now, due to the fact that we're taking and burning so much fuel. We're putting it back so fast that it's causing a much faster temperature change. But these other animals don't evolve that fast. Maybe evolution takes millions of years, not thousands or even hundreds, not by a long shot. And so these theories about animals being able to handle it it's false, and it's impossible to actually happen. The most important effect is that these plants and animals that we're depending on are what's dying off. Food sources will be dying off, and the food sources for the food sources that we eat will be dying off as well. But sadly enough, most things that we depend on will not work with global warming in the way that it's going. So that turns a lot of this into the fault of human beings. And so the best that we can do is to change our lifestyles and try to use greener energy and focus on the effects of our choices for our future generations. Now that you know the basics of global warming, do your part, make a difference. Thanks.